Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for the mayor of Abbotsford to bring the RCMP into Abbotsford and go after the organized crime. The Abbotsford men and women that worked and operated under the shadows of the night, calling themselves police officers and investigating officers, got owned. That is a foregone conclusion when you see the evidence that are overwhelming of the victims and witnesses that were there, and they failed and they purposely blocked criminal reports, and they figured they would let Mike Sir out. And this was for an elite establishment, and it was a money gravy train of the train tycoon Henry Brown. But nobody should be allowed to walk away from criminal charges, and no victim should be blocked, or no evidence should be censored, blocked, and not done. They had a duty, and they failed that duty. And now as me running as your mayor, an elected mayor, my duty is very clear, to kick them in the ass and kick them up very hard. I want their wives to ask them when they go home, why did you do it? And you can hear their excuse, well, it wasn't me, it was the guys up top. They covered an attempted murder. They used their police force to threaten. They believed that that uniform would buy him leniency. Then they stalked and they bullied, and they kept it all up for Henry Brown and his elite ring to hold power. And this is what they were doing. And then they kept it up, trying to justify it, that the community would take sympathy. We're a police force, we're a police force. And they're back players. Until it got far too far out of hand. It wasn't a little favor. It started in organized crime, and it ran wild. I showed you up at Ledgeview. I showed you him drug trafficking me. I showed you him pulling him from my car. It was constantly abuse. No person should stand on the world stage and tell residents or tell anybody or another country or another city that you know their scope of work. And when they fail that scope of work, you know they're dirty. And you do not need to be shielded that I'm an investigator. Oh, he needs me. I'm a task force officer and a drug force officer. Yeah, I'm important. You're all gone. You're all gone because it became a buddy-buddy system. And that's two things that happens. That gets innocent people killed, and it also gets people to retaliate and take the law in their own hand, because there's now no transparency and no equal system or balance of justice. And that means these assholes, pardon my mayorship language, all have to be gone. They can explain that to their wives. I don't need to explain it. They all got to be gone. They can't be trusted in our community. They can't police our community. And they knew what they were doing. They can go in the park and rub each other like they do, always on their backsides, and play their little garbage that they're some big investigators. It's very bad what these sick, warped individuals do. And you saw the smashing of my cameras, everything. This is the wisdom and the knowledge of people that hold the law, accountability to the law, and they're there for everybody, the RCMP mission. Without their insight and their knowledge and their help, we would have never got this far. Abbotsford would have never. That little small police force opened the door to an unbelievable thing on these garbage trash men racing their Dodge Chargers, threats. But it was an upper establishment that controlled them. There was no professionalism. There was no nothing. They were all running. They needed that city so bad for the billions of dollars that they had coming in from taxpayers, the BC and the federal government. I made some videos the other day showing you on Corky Neufeld that the BC Conservatives need not to green light him. He is hanging here. I want to show you something. He's at Amric Moran's party, and if you could see it, Amric Moran has got his an election sign already out there. Now if that ain't that. He's got his election sign, the red hasn't dropped or anything. I wonder if he's, in my opinion, if he's collecting donations there too for his campaign. But also who's at that, Amric Moran is on this police board. And now I want to show you something. Mike de Jong's there. Mike de Jong's the liberal, is big liberal. And Mike's there, hosting it. And also elected City Council, Simon Gibson. Simon Gibson there. Now that's a conflict of interest because Simon's an elected City Council. Simon should not be there, period. He should not be there with Amric Moran's sign posted, and Amric Moran posted that sign. It's unfair. Yeah, you can run your sign. You don't see me holding my election sign and doing that. And he's already lobbying, and this would be that, Menji Soe, who got in trouble with Elections Canada, should be fired. So they need already to load that establishment. So let me tell you about that. That is totally wrong. And he sits on this police board with Colin Watts. Him and Colin Watts were walking, holding hands in the hall and taking pictures with Brad Viss. And Simon Gibson is there too. Now Dave Sidhu's team and Marcus Dalvis's team came after me and said, you called us out with the BC United coat and what was taking place. Why ain't you shit-kicking Simon Gibson at that party? And Mike and Simon are Liberals, and you know that. I wonder if the BC United are creating under Caroline Elliott to revamp the party and walk Corky Neufeld and Amrit Moran over. I believe that's what's happening. Because Amrit Moran and Corky Neufeld are hanging out together with Liberals. And Armin Bangdu too, where he did his stuff. It would be best for Caroline Finlay now to kick Corky Neufeld out of the BC Conservatives, because he should not be anywhere placed with Mike de Jong after Mike de Jong told BC Conservatives federally and provincially, cut a deal. Henry owns Abbotsford. After Mike de Jong threw an illegal party on Bell Road. But what's missing in this whole thing is you could see them, they shun Dave Sidhu, the South Asian. They don't need Dave Sidhu. They're not relying on Dave Sidhu. They're not counting on him. They're using Amrit Moran. They're falling all over Amrit Moran. You see him, Amrit Moran? I guess Dave Sidhu caused them enough problem when they used him on Tracy Road, his lift of his piece of property, and the insider trading the block at the election of UFV and everything. Or did they tell Dave Sidhu, are they playing you, Dave? They're not hosting you, Dave. They're not using you, Dave. They're using Amrit Moran, and they're bouncing off of Amrit Moran for the South Asians. But the problem is, I got a chief that came in here not knowing anything about anything. I don't know how this guy got even. I don't know how this guy even got qualified to even hold a pen up. This guy is a joke, a complete joke. And I mean, he had to be somebody. Somebody had to owe him a favor. And he's got no way of running his company, no way of disciplining his guys, no way of cleaning anything, and no accountability. He sits on Alex Mitchell's lap every day. He saw what the insider trading did. He saw his guys chasing me that are on Henry's payroll, in my opinion. So I'm not in front of development science. Now he sees Amrit Moran on Archway. The money through Archway robs San Diego. Amrit Moran's supposed to be a lawyer. This guy figures I'm the chief. The lawyer's smarter than me, and he's a lawyer, and he might do something with the law. And one misleading the other. And now he's with Simon Gibson, and he invites Simon to that party. He's got his election sign, elect Amrit Moran. I wonder if he's taking donations, like I said already. And he's already lobbying against all the other councillors. And you can see the establishment all embeddled in there. Oh, they were embeddled. But Simon Gibson, again, right there, a direct conflict of interest in doing what he's doing, and he's elected city council. And this guy knows it. And this guy is aware of this. And this guy called himself a chief. This is the problem when Henry's son was in front of his dad at the city passing everything, lifting jobs and everything. But we had a police force that got totally owned. And that police force was out when politicians or anybody that was coming up in the ranks to speak and said, look it, there's a scandal. If I bring it to the light, it'll knock him out and give other candidates and me a chance to run. And this police force went out and did an elite posse, did body work, but they called themselves investigators. Garbage, just shit of society, and it should be treated like that, of how it could manipulate the general public and the media outlet for what it did. You have a leading investigators, criminal investigators, task force, and people that tell you they're doing drugs and all this criminal, used its database to search me, used its database to threaten me, used its database to chase me around, used its man to bully and stalk. But we went back there and we called ourselves the APD crap. These men were buying leniency. They used the courts for leniency, not to beat us up. And I believe, in my opinion, they have pushed Abbotsford society so far that the society, Abbotsford residents, have said and retaliated on them, and this is why we got this problem in Abbotsford. It's not a police force. When I went to the RCMP mission, they pulled the chair up. They said, what the hell are you talking about? No, he can't be doing that. That's insider trading. His son ain't allowed to be doing that. That's insider trading. Well, council are not allowed to be at Henry's house. They're collaborating and passing decisions. Developers are not allowed to hide a sign. That means the developer paid city manager and city engineers off. Developers are not allowed to run it. This is the wisdom of the best that study law, and they know it. And why did they know that? Then RCMP? Because they know it's bribes of money. Billions and billions and billions of dollars. And this is what they were doing. But what took place in Abbotsford, Darren Brown showed, was the two opposition parties, the Liberal and the NDP. They were coinciding and working together. That's why I showed you pictures of Pam hanging out and everything else. And I showed you them always working together. Mike was an attorney general. Mike DeYoung was an elected official at his party on Bale Road when he endorsed Dave Sadu. And there was drugs there. They were smoking dope outside. They had alcohol and everything. And this company here, investigators, oh, we're the best. Oh, we're the best. I tell you, at night we chase gangs. And they went around doing this on top of my cop cars, damaging my cop cars, stealing gas, racing my Dodge Chargers, threatening my residents, inflating their time cards, taking advantage of Canada Day, then abusing, using their database, smashing people. And they figured, oh, no, nothing can happen to us. Look at us. Now the little babies don't want to be anywhere in the public because I'll get my residents and evidence to take a picture of their face and bring it to me so I can show the whole world. This is Keelan Olenoff. This is Gertie Purdy. This is Mike Sir. And what should have been done right out the get-go, Mike Sir should have stepped away from Henry and said, Henry, you're in too far with attempted murder. I got to call the RCMP in. And they didn't. So I believe Mike Sir said, look, if I'm going to go down, Henry, I have enough on all of you. So they had to protect one, had to protect the other, had to protect the other. But where the Abbotsford police got hung up, no evidence went to them. It went over to the Mission RCMP that helped. And they couldn't then contain it. And they couldn't get it under control of who's where and who's getting the information out. So then these guys went to work. I'll dress up in my little uniform. Give me my little sidearm. Give me my 5-year badge. And they went out to work. Here comes the Abbotsford police, Mr. Politician. I'm a big police officer, Mr. Politician. Look how big I am. And when Darren Brown showed me they were stealing the 77, 80 million for a construction company when they could have wrecked no fitted, I knew right now they were embezzling the money. Henry set it all up. And I made that statement when I met with John Rustad and other politicians. Henry is the mastermind, the engine, the mastermind of it all. Push on Henry. They got to protect Henry from criminal charges. They got to protect him in the political ring. They won't call him out. They won't stand up against him because he blackjacked them all. You saw how he did Ross Siemens. You saw how he did Dave Sadu and everybody. He awarded them positions, and then he knew it. He knew Ross. Ross, you don't run for me and stand up, I'll have your gas station all towed down. Environmental Canada sees it. But this shit here, this man and women that walked around in my town, called themselves police force, has to be gone. And that's where we first start. We knock the crap out of these men and send them packing. So I want their wives, their dads and their moms, their neighbors, to ask them when they come home these questions. Why didn't you go out and charge Henry Brown for a hit and run and fleeing the scene of the accident? Ask him them questions. And why did Mike Sir cover up? Why was the police board blocking and not bringing the police complaints commission, the RCMP in? Why did you circle and threaten Mogill for Henry Brown to win the election? Why did you go after Mr. Pelican and sit at his house with the tax that on taxpayers' dollars constantly? Why did you smash his camera? Why did you do all this? What were you doing it for? They're going to tell you Mr. Pelican is the wanted with Abbotsford residents, the biggest wanted man in Canada. But the RCMP were right beside Mr. Pelican, so was John Rustad and Lee. I am going to kick the shit out of them top officers, and they need to understand that. They had a very important role, and sitting in that office, oh, look at me, nothing will come. I am going to kick the shit out of them as your mayor and as your mayor candidate, that they lose their jobs, they lose their pension, and they're ridiculed in this town so they can never survive it again, because they knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing when they blocked the law, they blocked the due process of the court, juries and everything, and they had a buddy system. So let them go home and go to Henry Brown and say, Henry, Ron Funk needs an employee, I'll go to work for free. And Colin Watts needs to get that through his head. He needs to stop hanging with politicians. He needs to stop going to Alex Mitchell. He needs to stop doing this stuff with Amric Moran. And what he should do is say, Amric, Sammy Gibson, that is a big conflict of interest and everything else, and you're beside me and all you do. This ain't no police force. It's garbage. It mismanaged and it operated by gooning people and threatening people to keep their man employed and their business going. And it was garbage. And it was only a matter of time before somebody like Darren Brown came along and spelled it. So the question we have, Abbotsford has everywhere. Did David Eby pick this garbage man that came in here, Colin Watts, to cover it all up? Because it's getting sure looking like that with the 71 million in Barrowtown. Should have a police investigation where that money is in. You knew you stole that minerals and gravel in and out. Dave Sidhu's piece of property. And then up at Ledgeview, his guy came up and made it clear he's an Abbotsford police officer in that big Ford, and he was going to threaten me and beat me for them signs and everything else. And now you can see him. So the question now, Dave Sidhu, they don't need you? They tossed you to the wind and they kicked you? I warned you back then when Darren Brown told me. They're going to use you, use your dad for the newspaper, and hang you out to dry. But you're going to sit down and they're going to promise you these big things. Insider trading, threats, collaborating, and all that sends you to jail. And that is why I'm on the world stage for the best, the RCMP, because I knew Henry owned it. Henry owned it. And the only thing he's missing is Henry's name across it. Henry Brown and Ed Fast Detachment. And that's what we need. And we're going to get that, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get that. We're working very hard as a community. We're going to get back in here. We're going to go after these jobs. We're going to help our farmers. We're going to get that. But we got to come to a conclusion as your mayor. We need the RCMP up front and center to drive us and make us go. That'll make it so much easier. It'll make it operate better. It'll give me as your mayor freedom to move around and get involved in everything. It'll allow me to go after these things like Ron Funk, the stuff up at Ledgeview, Dave Sidhu's property. It won't hamper me with threats, and I don't got to look over my shoulder and every 10 minutes being pulled out of my truck by this garbage. Oh, here I come. Look at me. I want to be a big police officer. The whole world's watching it. And I want to make sure everybody understands and social media understands. Abbotsford residents and myself owe the men and women in the Mission RCMP a tremendous thanks. For one, for their wisdom, their knowledge, and their insight. But for two, supporting Abbotsford, being there with Abbotsford, saying stay with it, fight with it. And they knew this garbage. This is just garbage. So I wonder when David Eby's going to come out here. We need the Abbotsford police. Look at them. Oh, they're the best. No, I tell you. Once you got it this far, the rest of it, you know they were into it all. And we have to go through and toss their houses as investigators, the elite investigators, go through their assets and search through everything. Henry owned them. Henry owned them. And this stuff, you just don't walk away. It wasn't a small favor like a traffic fine or that. But sitting in there, oh, look at me, I got my mouth shut. I'll polish my uniform, I'll take a picture with Alex Mitchell. Don't get it solved. And that there pisses Abbotsford residents and people off more. He figures he's doing damage control and he's going to have a meeting on Monday and he's going to talk to Amric Moran. Amric, what were you doing with Sam? And well, I'm trying to win. Look what the establishment needs. Henry lost the federal and the provincial. He couldn't own it. And so we worked from the top. We blocked him at the federal by loading Souk Mangel and took Dirty Ed Fast out. Then we took Pam out and Mike DeYoung because they were working together and everything. There's only one Henry's got is Brad Viss. And he lost that. He's only got the municipality to get is the city. So rather than us fighting for the city, we went federally, provincially, then came back to the city and dropped down. And Henry wasn't aware of that. And his world was collapsing. All the billions of dollars on the flood money and the infrastructure money and all this was gone. And now he's going to load, look at him, get Amric Moran in. But that there is illegal to all council. So I'm calling on Suki Dami to run for council for your South Asians. You need to be a voice. Gurpreet Rai, Bardi Sandhu, Marion Muscadam, and Abbotsford residents. I'm calling you to run for council. You need guidance? I'm running for mayor. And in that day, I'm going to show Abbotsford residents who's best to lead Abbotsford. And I'm going to tell you, anybody standing up to lead this town got to speak of one thing. That shit, it's got to be gone. They got to be unemployed. They got to understand what they've done as human beings and what comes to them when they do this. This was against politicians. This was against innocent families. And nobody should take pity on this. Nobody should feel sorry. This ain't a police force. The men and women that you owe respect to and you must say is the Mission RCMP. I'm live. Abbotsford, British Columbia, Abbotsford City, Dave Sidhu.